family, it's time for a true look at your world. Let's get hooked up for Pack Therapy. Here's your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Graham Hill.
Welcome into another edition of Pack Therapy, the podcast. I'm Tim Donnelly, as always, joined by Graham Hill. And I don't know if the adrenaline is worn off, but we can at least logically think about the future of NC State this season without just, I'm going to do my best not to just go down. That was the greatest ACC tournament run in ACC conference history. Because we did that. We go back and find it. We did it during the Selection Sunday emergency edition of the pod. But I felt it was necessary that we had 20, 30 minutes to just talk about how cool it was. And now we can maybe more level head dive into things.
Fun episode, by the way. Thank you for everybody that tuned in and for all the views, liked and subscribed. It's our most viewed episode of Pack Therapy. I mean, for obvious reasons. So thank you to everybody that's been supporting us all season through the good and the bad, just like NC State basketball.
And thank you to Kevin Keats and DJ Burns and Casey Morcell and DJ Horn and everybody and Michael O'Connell for giving us the content there. Definite hat tip on that being the most watched and listened to edition of the show. Do you know what I think is important, right? Because here's the question, right? And we could boil this entire podcast down to this question, meaning this episode. How do you keep it rolling, right? There wasn't time to get off the train track of momentum because you were playing a game a day for 5 days. So as it built up, right? You beat Louisville, builds up a little bit. You beat Syracuse, builds up a little bit. Beat Duke, builds up a lot. Boom, boom. You play 2 more games, UVA and North Carolina. There's very little time to lose any momentum. Now you have a week. You get to go read your press clippings. You get to go talk to fans. How do you not lose that momentum?
See, I'm glad you brought this up because I was starting to think to myself the next day or as soon as we got done with Pat Therapy, does it kind of hurt NC State a little bit taking what is it going to be 5 days now after playing 5 straight days? Like, is it one of those situations where when you're just on a hot streak like that, you just want to keep the momentum going, and now you kind of cool off a little bit? And as you mentioned, you start to read your press clippings a little bit, maybe start to feel yourself a little bit. Like, how does NC State, how do guys like Michael O'Connell, who's coming off one of the biggest shots of his career, DJ Burns, one of the biggest performances of his career, DJ Horn, just one of the biggest tournament runs of his career. Like, how do you kind of come off of cloud 9?
Here's what I think is helping NC State. Because the instinct is to try to recreate the ACC tournament run. And I've made this joke before, but sports lend itself to superstition, right? That's why you end up with baseball players that have worn the same jockstrap for 2 months, right? Because they're on a hit streak. Yeah. And it's like, hey, I'm playing well. I don't want to change anything. They're eating the same breakfast. They're riding on the same bus. They're lacing up their shoes the same way. So the instinct, I'm sure, from NC State is to go, what did we do to get ready for the ACC tournament? Let's do that exact thing for the NCAA tournament.
We lost 4 straight to close out the regular season.
Joking, but seriously, I'm sure that's the instinct because it went so well, right? We've all done that. But what I really liked about NC State during the ACC tournament run is they weren't paralyzed by that.
Yeah.
Part of it was because of Jaden Taylor's ankle. Part of it was because of DJ Horn getting healthy. But after winning their first 4 games at the ACC tournament, they changed their starting lineup, right? They took Taylor out. They put Horn in. And I remember when the graphic on Twitter comes out with who's going to be starting, I was like, what are they? You're going to mess with the chemistry? Like, bringing DJ Horn off the bench has been working. He's been great. He's been the spark. And now you're going to mess with that in the championship? And then sure enough, it worked fantastically. And DJ Horn, I wish he could have been out there more minutes because he played so darn well. And obviously the foul trouble ended up coming into play. But so I'm looking at it and going, I don't think they're going to be paralyzed by momentum, right? I don't think they're going to be paralyzed by, well, that's not how we did it at the ACC tournament. If they come into a matchup, right, they're playing Texas Tech. If they look at the Texas Tech scout over the next, couple of days or over the past week, and say, you know what, I think this is a game where Ben Middlebrooks should play a lot. They're not going to go, well, Middlebrooks didn't play that much in the ACC tournament. Why would he play more than so-and-so? Like, they're just going to try to make the decision with what's right, and that is extremely important, not to be, like the way I'm describing it, is paralyzed by things going well in the past.
They changed up the rotation at the right time. As I remember, you go back to some of our previous episodes of Pat Therapy in the regular season, we talked about how there needs to be a change in rotation. There needs to be different guys playing with each other just to change up the chemistry. And credit to Kevin Keats and his staff, even though they were kind of dealt the hand, given to them with DJ Horn being injured, Jaden Taylor sort of with an ankle issue as well, they were forced to change up the rotation. They were just fortunate enough that it worked out for them when it mattered most.
And I mean, how many times have I yelled and screamed about DJ Burns, right? There were times I was advocating for him to play less. There were times I was advocating for him to play more. Throughout the ACC tournament, I mean, he played 11 minutes in the second game. That would have been against Syracuse. 11 minutes. And I was like, how in the world can he stay ready? Well, maybe it was a fatigue thing. They wanted him ready for the next game. They didn't feel like they needed him. I don't know what it was. But, credit where it's due. Kevin Keats was pulling the right strings, and he was putting the guys out there that needed to be out there. I mean, that much is obvious. It worked out. So, looking at the NCAA tournament, it is a different beast. Maybe you did play DJ Burns light minutes against Syracuse, knowing, hey, if we're going to win this whole thing, he can't play 30 minutes a night because he's a big boy, and that gets tiring playing 5 straight nights of big minutes. In the NCAA tournament, that's different. You never play a back-to-back, right? The closest 2 games are going to be are Thursday and Saturday. You're going to have a week off. You're never playing more than 2 games in a week, and that's true for everyone in the tournament. So maybe you do change up your rotation based on that. What I like and what I'm confident in is they're going to look at what's best moving forward, not what was best moving into the past.
Another thing that we can kind of talk about as far as what helped them in the ACC tournament, and this has stuck out to me ever since I heard you bring it up on our previous episode that we did this past Sunday, is the choices that they were left to make. As you mentioned in that Louisville game, when they were down by 12 in the first half, they had a choice.
Oh, you're talking about like the mental, like the
mental side of it.
Fight or flight.
They were left with a choice, down by 12 to Louisville, one of the worst teams in the ACC of this season has not gone like we projected it to be, or projected it to have gone. We lost 4 straight coming into this. We're now losing by 12 in the first round. Let's just pack it up and go home.
It's always an option, right? That's always the parachute ripcord that you can pull. But because of how they reacted in that, I mean, down 12 to Louisville, Tuesday ACC tournament, you're coming off 4 straight losses. Everybody's talking about your coach's job security.
You don't have your best player out there.
Your best player or best perimeter player is not available due to injury. Yet they decided to dig in, right? They decided I'm not going to let this end this way. So let me ask you this. Is there another team in the NCAA tournament field who finds themselves down 17 in the first half or playing bad or not able to hit the broadside of a barn that you're more confident are going to fight, whether it's, they can pull it off or not, they're going to fight? I don't know if there is. When we're recording this, it's the day after UVA lost in the first 4. It was ugly.
Huh.
Right?
Man.
They Virginia'd all over themselves.
No, they did. They did Iowa football and translate it into basketball version. That's what they did.
With the defense wasn't even working at times. It felt, I don't want to say lost cause-ish, but it did feel inevitable. And I didn't get the same feeling with UVA where it's like, wow, they're playing really bad. But all that could turn around, right? I didn't have that, but all that could turn around if. And I'm not saying I had this all season with NC State, but if it happens in the first round against Texas Tech or if it happens in the next round against Kentucky or whoever they play, if State finds themselves down 14 and playing poorly, I still think I'm going to look around and go like, wait for it, right? I'm going to go like, they got something. They never have nothing. They've got something. And that's earned. That's a credit to them that they showed that in the ACC tournament.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to get back to was what I brought up about how you said with Louisville, they were left with a choice. They could be left with a choice tomorrow with Texas Tech. Texas Tech is favored, not by much. I mean,
it's a Big 12 team.
Big 12 team.
Get the love.
They didn't play. They were 23-10, 11-7 in the Big 12. So they could be left with a choice tomorrow where they're down by double digits tomorrow. You're hoping if you're a State fan that's not the cause, but who's to say that in the huddle they could say, guys, we've been here before. Like, that's the thing now. NC State now has an attitude of, we've dealt with adversity in the ACC tournament.
Very much so. I mean, adversity is putting it as maybe lightly as you could possibly put it.
It's almost like you talked about on the drive yesterday how Michael Jordan used to always say that practice was tougher than the game. Well, the ACC tournament was tougher than maybe the NCAA tournament will be.
Yeah. I mean, if you face Duke and UNC level teams in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, that's not unusual, right? Like that's as good as you can get. If the situation of it is more difficult, right? Imagine if, right, you win in the first round, so you go to the round of 32, and you're playing a team that didn't have to play in the 64, right? Because they got a bye. And then you win in the round of 32, you go to the Sweet 16, you're playing a team where that's the first game of their tournament. That's what they just faced in the ACC tournament. So you're right. It's the ACC tournament in some ways is more difficult than the NCAA tournament. Now, more important, no. And right, the trophy is bigger at the end of the NCAA tournament, and more eyes will be watching. And right, they don't have a one shining moment for the ACC tournament, which is one of the cooler things in sports.
I like how you tied in one shining moment, the theme song.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You don't have that the ball is tipped. You don't get Luther
there
Vandross. You don't get Luther Vandross.
You're running for your life.
My mom and I, for our mother's son dance at my wedding, danced to one shining moment.
Are you serious?
Like that's how in deep we are to the NCAA tournament.
That is the social media preview clip for this episode. That is awesome.
Yeah. So every year when the one shining moment is playing and they're doing the highlights, we have to send each other a video of it, like it's our song. Like I said, we're a sports family. So I say all of that to say there is a way where you're right? Where the NCAA tournament has all the ceremony and pomp and circumstance and the brackets and the one shining moment, but you could easily argue the ACC tournament starting on Tuesday is more difficult. NC State shouldn't think that way. They should act like they just climbed,
Mount Everest.
The Blue Ridge Mountains, and now they're going to climb Everest, right? They need to act like this next challenge is the more difficult one. We have to be better. We have to be more ready. We have to be more fit. We have to be more excited. We have to have a better game plan, because that's the only way you're going to have any success. But yeah, you're right. You could argue that it is a more challenging thing to do what they just did. Let's take a break. I've been thinking about this all week, really, since the final buzzer against UNC. I think I have the plan that I would use if I were NC State going into this tournament. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what that plan is right after this, right here on the Pack Therapy podcast. Stick around. Back on Pack Therapy on your podcast network from here at 99.9 The Fan. Go ahead and follow us on YouTube, 99.9 The Fan YouTube. You can catch us. You can actually see our conversations there, as well as a bunch of other content. I've been thinking about this. I've talked about it with a few people. Here's my, the way I describe it is, if you're an underdog, an 11 seed like State is in the NCAA tournament, you're an underdog. You have to find your slingshot, right? What is the thing that can be the mechanism that gets you to slay Goliath, right? If you're the David, how do you slay Goliath? What's your slingshot? I'm not breaking news here. This is not like I unearthed some very little known plan, but I do think it's something they can lean into. It's DJ Burns. I think you are going, obviously you need DJ Horn, you need Casey, you need everybody. But I think you go very, very lean in to DJ Burns on offense for this reason. He's different, right? And I've been using this analogy where it's like they're legends of playing Ralph Sampson. Now, do you know who Ralph Sampson is?
Yes.
All right, you're younger. I just wanted
No, I appreciate
He's
it.
7'4". He was the best player in the country. It was at Virginia, which obviously had a rough night last night. But teams playing against him would be like, how in the heck do we simulate playing against Ralph Sampson?
Hold up a broomstick
exactly.
and practice.
You'd take your 6'4", 6'5" scout team center, and you'd give him a push broom, and you'd have him waving it around there so everybody gets used to putting a little bit more arc on their shots, or maybe not taking that shot because it's going to get blocked. That's how you did it. I don't know how you do that for DJ Burns. What are you gonna do? Have him carry 2 45-pound plates and wear boxing mitts?
Maybe put one of those. Maybe have your trainer hold one of those traffic cones, like the
like the
circular, the circular ones, and
the
just have
barrels,
them,
the barrels,
the traffic barrels. You just have them stand in the center of the lane and just run around. And
but offensively, it's like when he's on offense, how do you simulate that? Dennis Cox, who produces my show in the afternoon, said, "Well, I think you got to hit up the football team and see if they have any 6'8" left tackles that can come in and show you how it takes 2 steps to get from one side to the other of him if you want to go from fronting to backside defense rather than 1 step. Like it's different and it's hard to simulate, right? I always equate it to like playing a triple option team in football or playing an old Syracuse Jim Boeheim 2-3 zone where it's like, can you learn that in a week?
Yeah.
Right? There's so many teams in college basketball that have like 3-and-D wings, one rim protecting center who likes to set screens and roll, a point guard that's a veteran, and they like to run some kind of motion or pick and roll offense. And it's like if you've scouted one, then 3 weeks later you're playing another. You go, hey, remember what we did against that team 3 weeks ago? We're gonna use elements of that. When you're playing against DJ Burns, it's not like, hey, remember when we played against that 6'8", 360-pound guy 3 weeks ago? Yeah, we're going to do similar things here because you didn't do that 3 weeks ago.
He's the first 6'8", 300-pound guy you're going to see in real time in the season.
Exactly. So I'm playing him 25 minutes. I'm playing him 28 minutes. I'm making sure when he's on the court, he gets a touch on just about every possession. And if you want to double team him, lovely. He's a great passer. Kick it out to the shooters. That's where DJ Horn can eat and pump fake and drive and kick. But he can be the thing that helps you upset some teams because it takes them a half to figure out what they want to do. It's that element of surprise, that element of unfamiliarity, unusualness, uniqueness that he brings to the table. ACC teams have seen it now for 2 years, right? So there were times this year where I'm going like, they figured it out. He's not the massive advantage on offense that he once was, and he's a liability on defense. Coach, you got to consider playing him less minutes. Texas Tech has not figured him out. I know that because they haven't had the chance to. They haven't seen it, and there are certain things you just have to see for yourself, right? It's. You can have a screensaver of the Grand Canyon on your computer. You can look at it every day. Sometimes you just got to drive out there and look at the hole in the ground. Like you can watch DJ Burns on film. You can say, geez, when he lowers his shoulder and puts it into the chest of a defensive big, that's going to be tough to stop. Here's what we should do. And you might have a plan until you get punched in the face. Sometimes you got to drive out and see the hole in the ground.
Just to give a little bit of a scout report for the Red Raiders, and sorry to any Texas Tech fans that might have found our podcast if I mispronounce any of these players' names. Just like you fans listening, we're finding a little bit out about Texas Tech just like you guys are. So
it's Mo Diarra, if you need to know how to spell Mo Diarra.
Yeah. For Texas Tech fans, it's Mo Diarra, not diarrhea. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way.
And those jokes are not original. We've heard them all. So be better.
We have 2 DJs, DJ Horn and DJ Burns. DJ Burns the bigger guy, DJ Horn's the smaller guy. And then the rest you need to know is just it's all transfers.
Funny story about that. I grew up in Hawaii for a couple years. At one point in time, they had Matt Gibson and Matt Gibson. So it was Matt Gibson and Matt Gipson.
Ah, okay.
Matt Gibson and Matt Gibson. And the announcers used to call them Big Matt and Little Matt.
Okay.
So one was a guard, one was a post, and they'd just be like, Big Matt. On the post entry from Little Matt, kicks it back out to Little Matt over on the left side, back to Big Matt. And that's like, they did that for as many years as they played together. So DJ Burns, big DJ. DJ Horn, little DJ. You're going to want to know where both of them are on the floor at all points in time.
There you go. So a little bit about the Red Raiders. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. Sophomore guard Pop Isaacs is the Red Raiders' leading scorer at 15.9 points per game. Senior guard Joe Toussaint is the team's...
I'm going to go with Toussaint.
Toussaint? We'll go with Toussaint. Is the team's leading scorer, 12.1 points per game. Toussaint is the team's assist leader at 4.3 assists per game and steal leader at 1.4 steals per game. And then finally, sophomore guard Darren Williams averages 11.4 points per game and 7.5 rebounds per game. I say all that because those are 3 guards I just listed.
Mm.
No big man was a part of that acquisition of leading players for the Red Raiders. So for those 3 guards, when they're defending and they're seeing DJ Burns coming down the court, they might be like, "Oh man, this is."
They do have a 7-footer. They do have a 7-footer. Last name Washington, plays a few minutes. I assume he's going to probably get the Diarra assignment because Diarra's been rebounding like a madman. Where they go elsewhere on DJ Burns will be part of the beast. What I will say is it's very obvious that Texas Tech recruits programs, and what I mean by that is their players come from high school programs that create stars. I see Darian Williams, who you brought up, Bishop Gorman. That is one of the richest athletic programs in high school in the country. Toussaint comes from Cardinal Hayes, which is in the Bronx, New York. I've got a buddy that coaches football there. They are very proud of their athletic program. Pop Isaac has spent time at a couple different prep academies. Golden State Prep, Chance McMillan. So, every program has their type. Something that I assume Texas Tech is looking for are high basketball IQs. They're looking for people that have played, if not, national high school basketball schedules, definitely regional, and they're looking for guys that have been tested. So they've played a lot of basketball. You're probably not going to rattle them. They're gonna have the IQ thing down. You're just gonna have to beat them at basketball rather than confusing them.
Just looking at their roster, we have super senior at 7 foot. He's a 7 foot forward. Number 22, Warren Washington.
I was right.
230 pounds. So that's the guy you mentioned that could put up.
What do they list him at as far as pounds go?
7 foot, 230.
Okay.
But
he
just
looks skinnier than that.
Looking at some of his pictures, it might just be all muscle. But Washington, it looks like he's an Arizona State transfer, so he has some Power 5 experience playing from the Arizona State. Maybe him and DJ Horn know each other. They would have to know each other, right?
If they were there at the same time, absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe DJ Horn could be given a little bit of a scout report. But yeah, it looks like Washington's the only guy that could pose a challenge. But as you mentioned, it looks like that might be more of an assignment on Diarra.
Someone's gonna have to rebound because after watching the ACC tournament, if you aren't putting a body on Mo Diarra to limit his rebounding, you're foolish because he's breaking records for rebounds in an ACC tournament. So there it goes. I mean, it's tomorrow, right? It's Thursday. NC State, Texas Tech, and as NC State feels very comfortable with because they've just done it 5 times, it's for all the marbles. If you lose, your season's over. They've been doing it for the last week, but that's what it is. So get it done, right?
Survive in advance.
And then hopefully we're putting out another emergency pod between the Thursday and the Saturday game. Well, they'll be playing the winner of Kentucky and Oakland.
Heck, I might go live at Mitch's Tavern where I'm going to be watching the game out with some buddies after the game. So
go as crazy as you want to. So there you go. That is the Pack Therapy podcast for this week. State, Texas Tech tomorrow. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the tournament. Find a comfy spot on the couch, at a bar, at a restaurant, at your friend's place. Watch all the games. That's what we're going to be doing. Until next time, have a great week, everybody.